Welcome to the Ken Hill Substack. And boy, do we got a good topic for everyone today. Yeah, feel. I mean, it's sort of like a magical thing. And a lot of times it's like, oh my gosh, I think, I wasn't born with good feel. Or I see somebody else writing and, they've got great feel and they've got so much confidence. And you're going to see those words really work together, feel and confidence. And it wasn't, I really didn't become aware of how I could teach feel until maybe 10 plus years ago. And of course I witnessed it, right? I saw it in a lot of the pros, right? I saw it in Freddie Spencer. I saw it riding behind Freddie Spencer. Like, how's he doing that? Or, I saw it in, say, Nikki Hayden or somebody along those lines where they were so natural and they had this immediate feel, this immediate comfort of knowing basically where the limits were. And yeah, it wasn't until later on where I was trying to develop these things and develop feel and understand, well, how do they get so good at, where the fork is at or where maximum braking is and where I can be releasing the brakes or whatever it might be, or whatever in a, car, like when do I sense lock up or however it goes. And it wasn't until I started putting a lot of deliberate reps in and starting to understand what that feel was like, right? So we've got to be able to experience it and put ourselves in a position to be able to experience it. So, yeah, I really think that this is something where you watch how some people are just very, very comfortable getting up to speed very quickly, or even learning a new track quickly. It's because they can get to their limit or their understanding of feel, which then getting to the limit in less time with somebody that doesn't know what that maximum feel is like. And yeah, we've all been humbled by it. It's like, well, yeah, I've only been out 4 sessions today. I'm just getting comfortable. Well, these are things that we want you to get comfortable within 4 laps and being able to get up to that limits very, very quickly. Yeah, and you'll save so much time and headache doing it. So how are these pro riders doing it, and how are these people that are comfortable with speed get up to speed so quickly? And yeah, they're using feel references. And let's pause there for a moment, because a lot of times we only use references of visual references, right? Oh, well, there's my turn-in point, or there's where my exit is, or whatever it might be. But we all have some sort of feel reference, whether it's a vagueness or whether it's something where a G out, for instance, right? You go to certain tracks that we absolutely are using feel references, like, oh, I better release the brake here to go over a bump, and then I'll go back to the brake, right? So you're using these references for feel, but maybe they're just not part of your total picture. So we want to bring essentially absolute feel references. So what should those feel references be? And of course, how do we look at not only your references, but your vehicle's references as well? So we're going to combine all that together. So we've got obviously a lot to talk about. But yeah, let's first talk a little bit about feel. And really what feel is it's those sensations you experience from feedback your vehicle provides in real time, right? So you want to be able to know what's happening, and ultimately you kind of want to know what's happening just a millisecond before it happens. And I mean, it's these sense of how things are responding, right? And there's sensations of whether it's weight transfer or vibration or bump absorption, sound, or even, like I said, some vagueness and some intuition of what is happening. And yes, it's all very, very subjective. We get that. And it's very, very, it's emotional, right? What I feel might be different than what you feel. But when we look at understanding the timing of that feel, man, does it make your life a lot easier? And that's really what we're going to get into, is the timing of these things. When should you be feeling things? And that's going to help, give you these windows that you can understand what feel is about. So yeah, I mean, really what feel references are about is it's they're like building a bridge between you and your vehicle and the track, right? So all of those things, right? So literally what your wheels are doing on the pavement and bringing that back to your chassis and your suspension and then your hands and then your butt, all those different sensations. So we want to be able to build that bridge. And again, as I started wanting to go, well, how do I give people more feel? How do I teach people feel, right? Like it's it's a crazy topic. How do I teach that? And then when I realized that as I've gone through this, well, if I look at certain times that we should be feeling something, then we're going to be more focused on what that sensation is really all about. So I think that's really what it's about, is that, again, goes back to there's crucial times when you should be feeling something. And this structure makes your life just so much easier. Because if you don't know what a good exit feels like, you don't know what a good exit feels like. Or if you don't know what good brake pressure is, you don't know what good brake pressure is. So the first ones that we're going to dive into, well, first of all, there's two categories, right? It's what you do and the references that we want you to be able to develop. And I realize there could be a bunch of them, but these are some of the objectives that I use when I start looking at field references. So we're going to talk about your driver rider field references, and then we're going to look at vehicle field references as well. So the certain times we should think about, say, initial chassis movement, right? Initial suspension movement, or initial throttle, whatever, these different things. So we're going to get into those things quite a bit. So let's go right into the driver rider field references. And these are the areas to focus on. And these are the areas and yes, these are not necessarily the only references, but they're certainly the ones that I want to start with. And they're the ones that I want to bring to your attention, and the ones that we can really train, because they do end up umbrelling or encompassing a lot of other things that go within them. So, all right, here we go. Yeah, the first one we'll look at is straight line braking. And yeah, I can't emphasize enough the confidence you build in your front tires is all related to how you're loading them. And so this is why we practice brake drills, and I give you story after story about what a big deal brake drills are. Even pro riders, once they want to work on this feel, and how do they get feel? By putting reps in of feeling the chassis compressed, right? The tire carcass flex. And literally, I'm going to say this word, and we're going to talk about it in another aspect as well. They literally want to feel the pavement, the track being pushed up into it. And if you're not getting that sensation, then we know that there's a lot more force available. So straight line braking, and it's building that confidence. It's strong, controlled straight line braking that really allows the foundation for accelerating as long as possible, right? Because where do acceleration problems come from? Because you don't feel like you have a way to get out of it. Well, if we practice our brakes and we get that feeling of, okay, I know how I can compress the front, and I know that if I go to the brakes and do X, Y, Z, I know that I'm going to get the proper reaction for it. So straight line braking is a big one. Brake force at turn in. And yeah, this is one of the ones that's a little bit harder, but it's one of the ones that obviously makes a huge difference. And it's one that we've talked a lot about here on the platform, how important brake force at turn in is, right? When we realize what the brakes are really used for. But yeah, how much brake force at turn in that helps guide your vehicle down to the slow point, right? How does it get the appropriate steering in? So again, if you're not feeling how your radius starts to tighten with the appropriate brake force, then that's a great point for you. So how much brake force you have at turn in. Slow point of the corner. Yeah, slow point of the corner. It's funny. I hear this universally. It doesn't matter if it's a new rider. It doesn't matter if it's a pro rider. And you're thinking, well, how do I get a feel reference off the slowest point of the corner? Yeah, there's a couple things here. When you get the slowest point of the corner feeling right, it feels too slow. It feels like, no, this can't be right. There's no way this is correct. So you want to almost feel like you're slowed, and if it's slowed too much, and if that is done appropriately, right? If that's done correctly, you'll see that you'll continue to turn at that point as well. And that's what gives you that extra sharp little exit. So yeah, there absolutely is a feeling at the slow point of the corner. It almost feels like you're too slow. Core engagement. Yeah, this is another really strong feel reference. And there's different times we can look at the core engagement, but we really want to look at core engagement in two specific places. One is at turn in. We want to do that at turn in so our hands then become light, so we can either catch things going in and help give you that feedback, right? Get that information back from the chassis and the tires and the track. If there's too much weight on your hands, you're not going to be able to get that. So we look at core engagement as a really great feel reference at turn in. And then we look at another aspect is at the slowest point of the corner. And we do that because if we end up building too much weight on our hands at the slowest point of the corner, very difficult to then to gauge how much throttle or being how much steering that you're going to be able to use. Or on the motorcycle side, yeah, how you use your body is incredibly important on the exit, getting the bike stood up. So yeah, core engagement, a huge one as far as a feel reference. And then the last one is what a good exit feels like. I think the two biggest ones in this is what a good exit feels like and brake force, brake pressure at turn in. Because once you know what a good exit feels like, I'm trying to replicate that off of every single exit, how I get it slowed, deliberately slowed and pointed, and how I'm using the throttle. So that once I know what that is like, that's literally, if there's 10 corners, I'm trying to replicate that 10 times. If there's 15, I'm trying to replicate that 15 times. So what a good exit feels like. And that helps you then understand where you should be placed on the entry and where you should be placed in the middle of the corner, so you can capture and feel what that good exit is like. So, all right, let's jump into vehicle feel references. So yeah, there's a lot here. And I know we did a lot on one of the last talks that we did about, when is it time to address setup? But, one of the ways that you can shortcut this is if you, again, are looking at things at the right time. And it really makes things easier when to establish a feedback loop. And it also helps get rid of very broad statements. The guessing part is, yeah, I don't know, it doesn't turn. It feels soft. Yeah, it runs wide. Well, okay, there's just a lot more to it than that, because we need to be able to narrow that down. Those are just way too vague, and you're going to be chasing your tail if you've got that kind of vague guessing games. And instead, right, we want to look at saying, oh yeah, long radius corners. When I go to accelerate, I got to let off the throttle because it runs wide. Or yeah, initial braking, it transfers way too quickly, and I got to let off the brake because it transfers way too quickly. So we want to make sure that that feedback loop is effective. So how do we make that feedback loop effective? Is we have specific times that we're looking at what your car or your bike are doing, so we can go back and write those things down, talk to your data person, your crew chief, whoever it might be, or yeah, yourself having to deal with these things. The first one is, yeah, weight transfer during braking. And here we really want to evaluate the dynamics of weight transfer. Is it under braking, right? So is it focusing? We want to focus on the speed of the transfer, the extent of the weight transfer, how far is the weight transferring into the suspension, and where this is happening in your deceleration zone. So do you go to the brakes initially and the thing just moves very, very quickly, or does it take a long time for that to happen? And then again, as you get into this, you can go, well, yeah, I'm not feeling the track get pushed up into me, or I'm not feeling anything, or, oh my gosh, immediately things transfer too quickly. So when we look at vehicle feel references, the first one that we really want to identify is the weight transfer during braking. Second one is the turn-in, right? The turn-in dynamics and how your vehicle responds to turning, and what control you're using during that time, right? So is it something where you're using the brakes? Is it a specific corner where maybe you're just rolling off the throttle because that's what that corner calls for? Is it a short radius corner? Is it a long radius corner? All these different things. And again, if you think about that specific zone of feel, again, it's going to help narrow these things down. Yeah, mid-corner feedback. There's a lot here, right? And here we want to be able to think about, really, it's how well your vehicle's holding its line as the brakes are being released and the throttle's being picked up. Let me say that again. Here, mid-corner feedback is really about your end of braking, and as you release the brakes, are you able to continue turning, right? So with that very, very nuanced, specific area. And then as you apply the throttle, same thing. Are your inputs appropriate? So when you go to do that the vehicle's basically able to keep turning as well, and you're not having to give up the throttle on the exit. So mid-corner feedback, yeah, big one right there. Exit characteristics, yeah, we really want to look at that first 50 feet of acceleration, which we kind of just led into, and we want to distinguish between Side grip and drive grip, right? Side grip is when you're initially picking the throttle up and you're starting to build it. And then drive is when you're starting to get the thing really releasing steering wheel, right? Taking away lean angle, getting into the meat of the drive and how it's grip in that area. Same thing, long radius corner, short radius corner as well. Yeah, then we've got direction changes and bump absorption, right? We want to observe how the vehicle, handles transitions and absorbs bumps, right? And is it coming through? Well, we'll talk about direction changes first, right? Is it something where you feel like it's the car or bike is behind you, right? You're making the movement and then there's a lag there. Like, it's like, what, I feel like this thing's just slow, like it's behind me. Or potentially, is it too quick? You're making moves and you're kind of have to back off a little bit because the thing's too fast. Or does it move and then stop moving? Or does it not move initially and then move, right? So there's a lot of characteristics, and we want to look at that at direction changes. Bump absorption, right? Bump absorption, we want to see, one, is it coming through our hands? Is it coming through our butt? Is it coming through our feet? Is it only on one corner? Is it on sharp bumps? Is it more on G-outs? Whatever it might be. So there's a lot there that you can get through that zone, right? That feel and that zone of direction changes and bump absorption. Yeah, tires. Yeah, so tires, we really want to evaluate grip in both low and high speed corners. And we want to do that with those deliberate, consistent inputs. And so is it, okay, I want to see how my grip is off an exit. Okay, great. I'm going to apply throttle in a linear fashion. Oh, I got no movement. Cool. Next lap I'm going to do, and maybe I'm going to move my acceleration a little bit quicker and see if I get any movement out of there. Middle of the corner, do I feel like I have more left, right? Do I have more left? Can I add more steering input? And I've got grip available to do that. So yeah, there's a lot there with tires as well. And those still get broken down into, again, straight line braking, turn in, when we look at tires, how the tires are reacting to that. Electronics. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things you can assess with electronics, and it all goes back to those same things, right? How the electronics intervene during braking, corner entry, cars that have, or even bikes, we've got some electronics kicking in on rotation, on entry a little bit more, whether it's ABS, whether it's exits. So really concentrate on the electronic side of it as well. So yeah, so here's the deal. You can learn feel. Through all those things that I just talked about, you can learn feel. And when you look at, no one's born with just, oh, boom, you've got feel. No, they've done it by putting in reps, whether it's reps in the rain, whether it's reps testing suspension, whether it's testing tires, whether it's riding a mini bike on polished concrete. I mean, they put reps in to develop feel. And that's really what this is about, is getting you to be in these specific conditions and running reps to be able to do that. If you want to get good at feel on your front tire, great. Run some brake drills, right? Literally go out on the hot pits or the parking lot, whatever it is, and feel how weight transfers, feel how the suspension compresses, feel how the tires compress, and then how you release that, right? Like I said, thinking about how the pavement gets pushed up into the suspension. If you're not feeling it, you've got more left. So I do think feel can be trained, but it's you committing to putting in these deliberate reps with each one of these things. And yeah, I mean, I can tell you that I've tested suspension for various manufacturers, and you'll go out and they'll say, first, you don't get to know what they did, right? So it's like, you're going to go out and ride. We want you to ride. We want you to put in a baseline lap. Great. Then they're going to come in and say, okay, we've made a change. We want you to ride again, but maybe you could be just a little bit, we'd like you to pay attention a little bit on the initial part of the weight transfer. How does it move and keep moving? Does it move and does it stop? Does it not move at all? So you're going to be out there with keyed into that a little bit and, trying to fix that problem. So yeah, I think that there's a lot that you can do on putting reps together to develop these things. So yeah, the bottom line is, yeah, you can do this, and adding feel references to your deal, right? I think is huge. And I know we usually talk about these visual references, but field references are a whole nother aspect of it. and another great way to, yeah, continue your growth in the sport.